Welcome back. Memorial Day, all about remembering and memorializing the soldiers we've lost. Dover Air Force Base in Delaware, it is the place where those fallen soldiers return after falling in combat. The Air Force Mortuary Affairs operation, it is a commitment to ensure that they are treated with the utmost dignity, honor, and respect, and also to prepare them for their return to their families. It is a solemn and it is a critical job. And our own Kimberly Wallace, she traveled to Dover to speak with Colonel John DeVilliers, who is the commander of this unit.
Our responsibility here at Air Force Mortuary Affairs Operations is to take care of our nation's combat fallen. So anybody who dies in a theater of combat would come here to Dover Air Force Base to be returned to their loved ones. We have a very unique mission. This is probably the most humbling and honorable job I've ever had in my 20-year career.
Colonel John DeVilliers is commander of U.S. Air Force Mortuary Affairs at Dover Air Force Base in Dover, Delaware. Assigned here in May of 2012 after serving in Afghanistan, he reflects on serving in this solemn but vitally important role.
I came here not knowing what to expect. I had my own expectations based upon what I read in the news, etc., and my eyes have been opened wide to the professionalism of the people who work here at the Charles C. Carson Center for Mortuary Affairs.
Named in honor of Charles Carson, a civilian mortician for the U.S. Air Force for 38 years, this 70,000 square foot facility became home to the mortuary in 2003, replacing the 48-year-old Dover Port Mortuary that had been in use since 1955.
The mortuary itself has supported many conflicts, many events, mass fatality events since the 1950s, including the Vietnam War, the Space Shuttle Columbia disaster, the Challenger disaster, and identification of the military remains of 9/11. But since 2003, we've been involved in Operation Iraqi Freedom, Enduring Freedom, New Dawn, just to name a few.
Dignity, honor, and respect. 3 words that make up the mortuary's mission. 3 words you'll hear often as you walk these otherwise quiet halls.
The primary mission is to bring back our combat fallen and then return them to their families as expeditiously as possible. I say quite often, taking care of our fallen is not our responsibility here. It is not Team Dover's responsibility. It's not the city of Dover's responsibility. It's not the state of Delaware's responsibility. It is the responsibility of the United States. Less than 1% of us put on the uniform, and we owe it as a nation to take care of them.
As the only Department of Defense mortuary in the continental United States, its mission has stretched beyond the battlefield. The mortuary is prepared to deal with large fatalities, entitlements for families such as funeral services, and even past conflicts. 1,500 airmen remain missing in action from Vietnam and the Cold War. When identifications are made years later, it's a team here at Dover that provides families with funeral entitlements that those men and women earned many years ago.
We do see the worst side of war here. You know, people downrange, when they deal with the combat fallen, they deal with the combat fallen, but they don't deal with the families. We deal with both. So we bring the combat fallen here. We have to dress them, casket them, return them home, but we also have to deal with the families, which is very emotional as well, because this is oftentimes the worst day of that family's life. We just provide them the best support we can. It's very difficult. They have to go through the grieving process. We have chaplains, assistants, mental health technicians. We have a whole gamut of support for the families.
And while the emotion and overwhelming grief of the families is most important to address, the men and women who work in mortuary affairs also feel the impact.
I've been out on the flight line in the middle of the night, standing at attention, saluting these brave, soldiers, sailors, airmen, and Marines as they come off the aircraft, and I'm facing the family. The family is immediately across from me. And there was one case where I saw a young girl, she was maybe 12, and she was crying, getting very emotional because her big brother was coming off the airplane. So that really sticks with me. In another case, we deal with the personal effects of the fallen. So it could be items that are on them when they fall in combat. It's wedding rings, it's necklaces, things they have in their pockets. And at one point I was back in our personal effects area, just talking to the airmen that work there, making sure they're okay. And there was a personal effect out, and it was a little handwritten note in crayon, probably from a 6-year-old girl, that said, "I love you, Daddy." And it's tough.
For such a large and important mission, the staff is relatively small. Just over 100 individuals from all branches of the service and civilians volunteer for this solemn assignment.
We are honoring the men and women of our nation who have voluntarily said, I will put on the uniform and then go into combat and die for us.
When we come back, we'll have much more. Stay with us.